Hello and welcome to this edition of Ritter's Rant. Today we're going to explore the word arrogance. And unfortunately, when we use that word in the context of the present times, it's more often than not referring to actions, policies, words, deeds of the United States of America, of our elected representatives, of our president. And today is just chock full of examples of arrogance. We have a tweet from Senator Lindsey Graham. I guess we call it it's not a tweet anymore. It's a posting on X, in which he puts Russian President Vladimir Putin on notice. He says, yeah, you guys may have beaten sanctions in the past, but you're not going to beat them this time because the United States has the magic formula. Instead of threatening Russia, we're going to threaten those who do business with Russia. Nations like China, like India, like Brazil, like others, people who buy Russian energy. And, basically, Senator Graham is putting Russia on notice that the United States is seeking to bankrupt Russia, to break Russia economically, to make Russia bend the knee. Senator Graham tells Vladimir Putin he doesn't know what he's gotten into. He doesn't understand the consequences of his actions. That's arrogance. Maybe Senator Graham doesn't know anything about Russia. I don't claim to be the world's foremost expert on Russia, but I know enough about Russia, and I've dealt with Russians enough, especially Russians of senior rank, of a certain degree of knowledge and insight into the workings of the Russian economy, to be confident to say that when it comes to knowledge about how Russia interfaces with the global economy, what makes the Russian economy tick, where Russia's vulnerabilities are, the Russians know a hell of a lot more than Lindsey Graham does, or Scott Bessent, or anybody else in the U.S. government. But the arrogance of Senator Graham blinds him to this reality. And it just takes the United States down a path that we really don't need to be going. We shouldn't want to be going in this direction. But no, here comes the president doubling down on stupid, putting out his own posting on social media, putting India on notice. He starts off by saying India and the United States are good friends. But India is behaving badly, you see, because India buys energy and weapons from Russia. And that's not good, according to the president. It's always ironic to hear the president chide others for buying Russian energy or buying weapons from Russia, when all this president does is seek to jam energy down the throats of our erstwhile allies and compel people to buy American weapons. What is good for the goose obviously isn't good for the gander. Arrogance. Let's just take the meetings that the president had just the other day with Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission. Or European Union, she sat there and had this president sell her a supposed great trade deal. One that had Europe committing to purchasing $750 billion worth of American energy. $750 billion over the course of 3 years. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of energy. And then she committed to have Europe invest $600 billion into the American economy. My God, this was such a great deal. Except it's not a deal at all. First of all, Ursula had to back away, and she said, I don't have the ability to make anybody pay $600 billion and invest it into America. It's not central funding. This would be private investments, and we have no way of knowing who's going to invest or if anybody's going to invest at all. Pro him, they're not going to invest. So the $600 billion is just made up money. $750 billion in energy payments. Look, last year, Europe bought $76 billion worth of energy from the United States. $76 billion. And now they're supposed to suddenly almost quadruple that to $250 billion in a year. First of all, the United States only exports 310 or 318 billion to everybody in the world. And the notion the United States is going to cut its contracts with others to divert all resources to Europe, that Europe has the ability to bring in liquefied natural gas, pump it on shore, deliquefy, transport it, and all. Europe doesn't have the resources. They don't have the infrastructure. This is a made-up number. It's totally fictional. But the arrogance of the president allowed him to sit there and pretend this was real and sell it to the American people as if he had accomplished something. he'd accomplished nothing. It's embarrassing. I mean, it's so detached from reality. And now he's telling India that they can't buy Russian weapons and they can't buy Russian oil. And if they continue to do so, he's going to throw a tariff on them. I think the number was 25%, but it may go up. Who knows? What is India going to do? I don't know. I can't imagine any sovereign state yielding to the United States. We know China won't. China's come out and said, no, they will have nothing to do with this. That China alone determines who they buy energy from, what their energy requirements are, what their priorities are, who they do business with, and they will not yield to the United States on this issue. And they warn the United States, if you want a trade war, then you'll get one. Nobody will win, but we're not going to quit. And I think the last time the president tried to put this tariff thing on China back in April, he had to back down real quick. I know the president likes to say that China made a call. They didn't make a call. That China backed down. They didn't back down. It was the president who backed down because he basically got his butt kicked, handed to him. And they just recently resolved that issue. It sort of centered around rare earth minerals and China's domination of that market, and the fact that the American auto industry was about to go bankrupt because they didn't have the access to the materials they needed to produce automobiles, especially electric vehicles. They need those permanent magnets. Permanent magnets are the term permanent magnet comes from the fact that the materials that they're built from or manufactured from are naturally magnetic, meaning they don't have to be charged from outside sources. So they're naturally magnetic, which means they're going to hold a charge no matter what. They're ideal for use in electric vehicles and the windmills and the motors of the windmills. And China controls about 90+% of the global market. You piss the Chinese off and they shut off the sources, nothing works. Well, that's what we did in April. We just barely resolved this issue. And now the president's getting ready to piss the Chinese off again. How stupid can he get? And the answer is very stupid. Why? Because he's arrogant. The notion that the United States is the center of this planet, of the universe, is an absurd notion. There may have been a time when American hegemony was a natural course of events in this aftermath of the Second World War, the collapse of the Soviet Union. The United States was the sole remaining superpower. But we inherited this not because we did anything, but because people around us collapsed. Now we're in a world where people have stood up, they're competing, it's a multipolar world, and we want to continue to treat the world as if they're somehow subservient to us. The world is not composed of servants. The world is composed of sovereign nations, and you must treat these sovereign nations with respect, not with arrogance. If we continue to behave, and all that's going to happen is it going to blow back on us. When I say us, I mean we, the people of the United States. No matter how much the president likes to claim that we're bringing in, tariff income like we've never done before, the American people need to understand the following. Tariff income is just another term for tax. You're paying the price. I'm paying the price. We're all paying the price. This isn't money gifted to us from other nations. This is money that we end up having to pay. And so far, it's costing us around $150 billion, us, the American people, additional levies on our income above and beyond that which the government already takes in the form of taxation. Taxation, our paycheck, taxation at the gas pump, taxation at the store, taxation of our homes, taxation of everything. We're the most heavily taxed people in the world. And yet we somehow sit there and say, wow, we're making money on tariffs. We're not. What this president is doing through his arrogance is bankrupting the American people. He's bankrupting us economically. And if this continues, he'll bankrupt us in terms of our national reputation, of our moral standing, of who we are and what we are as a collective. Arrogance. We don't want to be arrogant. We want to be the opposite. The golden rule, do unto others as you would want done unto you. We wouldn't want other nations coming in and dictating to us what we can and what we can't buy. We shouldn't be in the business of dictating this to other nations. That's my rant. Thanks for listening. Next time the thought crosses my mind, I'll be sure to run it by you.